Hi everyone, so today we're going to be going through a potential 2020 matchup between Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts and Donald Trump of New York. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup that we're going to be taking a look at today with Elizabeth Warren, one of the most progressive people in the country, in the Senate, I should say. Obviously there are far left communists and socialists in the US, but so obviously not the most left, but most left, one of the most left in the Senate, aside from Vermont Senator and former presidential candidate and current presidential candidate for the Democrats, Bernie Sanders. So Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, she has been rising in the polls by quite a solid margin very recently. She's in a very close third place in the state of Iowa, just behind Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is at 16%. Elizabeth Warren is at 15%. 15%. And so that's definitely something that she can tout, that she is very close to the progressive firebrand Bernie Sanders. So Elizabeth Warren, again, rising in the polls, becoming a much more likely 2020 scenario with Donald J. Trump. So, Elizabeth Warren, let's get right into this. So, Elizabeth Warren wins Washington, Oregon, California, Hawaii, of course. She also wins New Mexico, Illinois, Vermont, her home state of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, click it, Delaware, Maryland, District of Columbia, New York, and that first district in the state of Maine I will see going safe, 15% or more into the Elizabeth Warren column. As for Trump, Alaska, Utah, Arizona, Alaska, Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and most of Nebraska, except for that 2nd congressional district. Then I actually could also see Texas moving into the likely column against Elizabeth Warren. I mean, I don't think she would do the best against Trump, but I still think she could keep it relatively, within the, close to competitive, probably something like a 7 point win for Elizabeth Warren, but again, I don't think it would be all that close in terms of the state of Texas. So, Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts of 188, Trump at 163. Where can Elizabeth Warren expand her lead? She can expand it in states like Colorado, with a heavy Latino population in that state. It's been going Democratic for years now. It's been trending Democratic. Democrats did very well here in the 2018 midterms. Colorado moves into the likely Democratic column. Nevada moves into the leaning Democratic column. We could see in 2018 Democrats had strong success in both high-profile statewide races. We'll see if that can continue into 2020, but my guess is that it will, and I see Elizabeth Warren winning in the state of Nevada. Okay, in Arizona, I think Trump can win here narrowly. I don't think Elizabeth Warren's the kind of person to appeal to the Arizona voters. I don't think her progressive message will resonate as well with Arizona voters. I think with Arizona, unlike other parts of the country, you really kind of need that centrist candidate who can capture Republican support in the suburbs. I don't think Elizabeth Warren is that kind of candidate, and so I see Arizona moving into the leaning Republican column. As for Nebraska's 2nd district, again, this one moves into the leaning Republican column. We saw in 2018, Kara Eastman came up short against Don Bacon. Kara Eastman was an outspoken progressive. She fell short. I think that Elizabeth Warren, also a progressive, would also fall short in the 2nd district of the state of Nebraska. Okay, so we've done half of the country. Let's finish off the other half. So, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. That's the order. We'll go through the remaining states, and then we'll finish off this prediction. So, in the state of Florida, I see this one moving into the Trump column narrowly, just because, again, 2018 midterms. Democrats fell short in two high-profile statewide races, Bill Nelson in the Senate race, Andrew Gillum in the governor's race. Both fell short, and I think that Democrats really kind of blew it in Florida in 2018. I mean, yes, they did pick up one or two House seats, but again, that's not necessarily enough to get someone like an Elizabeth Warren over the line. Now, I see the arguments as to why it might go Democratic in 2020 because of how former felons can now vote in Florida, but I don't think it'll be enough to get Elizabeth Warren over the hump in Florida. In Georgia, I see Georgia moving into the Trump column. With many of these African American states like North Carolina, I don't see African Americans being very excited by Elizabeth Warren's candidacy. I think she'll come up short in both Georgia and North Carolina. And I actually think that in both of those states, there are both Senate races where Democrats have hopes to win in. And I think if Democrats nominate someone who could win there, someone like a Joe Biden, someone like even a Bernie Sanders, I could see potentially, Kamala Harris is a possibility. If they nominate someone like that, I see Democrats picking up some of those Senate seats. So yeah, it really depends. So North Carolina, Georgia, both go into the Republican column. In Virginia, this one's a Democratic state by now. I don't think I need to go into much reasoning here. Tim Kaine easily won his Senate seat. Democrats won it in 2018. I mean, it's been trending Democratic now. Virginia moves into the leaning Elizabeth Warren column. Okay. Now we've done the South, let's go up into Maine, New Hampshire, and then into the Rust Belt. Okay, Maine. Maine at large we see moving into the Elizabeth Warren column. Again, she's from Massachusetts. I think she could do well here. But that second district, I don't think it'll be enough from a geography point of view to get Elizabeth Warren over the line. I think it moves into the leaning Republican column. So, so Trump right now at 236 electoral votes, Elizabeth Warren at 218. With the state of New Hampshire, we see this one moving into the Elizabeth Warren column. Close proximity to Massachusetts will help, and again, Democrats doing well here in recent elections. Elizabeth Warren wins in New Hampshire. So, Elizabeth Warren, 222 electoral votes. Donald Trump at 236. Right now, we see Elizabeth Warren narrowly carrying the state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania we see as being a critical state for Elizabeth Warren, and I believe that she will narrowly hold on to the state of Pennsylvania very narrowly, just because, again, look at Democrats' success here in the midterms. Now, while I don't think Elizabeth Warren is the perfect sort of candidate to win in Pennsylvania, I think she's good enough to get Democrats over the line in Pennsylvania. I think she can appeal to progressives in Philadelphia, but also to some disaffected Trump voters who feel disillusioned by Trump's promises, which he is not necessarily keeping. Pennsylvania, I think, narrowly moves into the Warren column. Ohio moves into the Trump column. Again, I don't think Elizabeth Warren's the kind of candidate to do well here in the Rust Belt, but I think that she's going to make it competitive to get Democrats over the line in states like Pennsylvania and in states like Michigan, where we can see Michigan moving into the Warren column, because again, look at Democrats' success here in the midterms. I think Michigan narrowly moves into the Elizabeth Warren column. And finally, Wisconsin, we also see moving into the Elizabeth Warren column very narrowly, just because, again, look at the 2018 midterms. Trump barely won all of these three states against a weak Democratic candidate in Hillary Clinton. I think Elizabeth Warren is not the best Democrat either, but I think she'll do well enough to get Democrats over the hump in these states. Okay, Donald Trump, he wins in Iowa. Trump wins in Iowa. I don't think his tariffs are going to do him much success politically, electorally in 2020. But again, I don't think Elizabeth Warren is the right kind of candidate for the Democrats to win back the Rust Belt. But again, I think she'll do good enough just to get Democrats over the hump in those states. In the state of Minnesota, we see this one moving into the Democratic column because, again, look at the 2018 midterms. That's it for today's video, guys, and right now we're at 278 electoral votes for Elizabeth Warren, 264 Donald Trump, a very close election matchup with Warren and Trump. And so, yes, that will conclude this video, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down your suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.